Hi, my name's Rick Sullivan and I'm Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm thrilled to be part of the 6th Annual Green Schools Summit. I'm sorry that I can't be with you today, but I do think that the work that you do every single day and the work of this summit is very important for the future of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the country. Governor Patrick, when he first took office, understood the importance and the relationship between energy and the environment. And in fact, he was the first governor in the history of the country that put energy and environmental affairs into the same secretariat. And he did so because he understood that good, clean energy decisions were good for the environment and vice versa. And that the governor then puts together a series of legislative initiatives and policies to help guide the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and in fact lead the country in good environmental stewardship and in good clean energy and energy efficiency policies, truly leading the nation. And I think it's very important because at the core of the governor's initiatives is having a conversation across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in our schools, in our homes, in our businesses, city by city and town by town, as we talked about our energy use and our environment. He understood that we in Massachusetts are at the end of the energy pipeline and that we spend some $22 billion a year in energy, and of that, some $18 billion of those dollars not only leave the state, but leave the country. And he understood that if we invested in energy efficiencies and renewable energies, that those would be good environmental decisions, it would increase our own independence around our energy use, it would lower our costs, and it would be good for the environment at the same time, creating jobs here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And to have that discussion, we have included the schools because that is really where all of the initiatives start, because you become ambassadors for good, clean energy decisions and good environmental policy. Because as the governor says, it is our generational responsibility in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts right now to leave Massachusetts in a better place for the generations to come, for your generation. So you are involved and you are the most important people in these policies that are set out, and you play an important part in making these policies become reality and changing the way that people look at their energy use, the way they look at their environment, the way they take up recycling, leaving Massachusetts better for tomorrow. And I think that at the end of the day, when you go to school, sometimes people stop and they think, well, what kind of a difference can I make? Well, you make a huge difference in your school, in your home, and having us as a Commonwealth of Massachusetts have the discussion about a better energy future, about a better environmental future. You really are the leaders, not only of tomorrow, but you are the leaders of today. So I thank you for being involved in the environmental issues that you are, for being here as part of the summit, and I look forward to a brighter future because of your leadership. Thank you.
Okay, girls.
Great. We wanted to thank Secretary Sullivan for answering a few interview questions and speaking with us today. My name is Karen Bustard. I'm a Tufts senior studying international relations with a focus in global health, nutrition, and the environment.
I'm Haley Organ. I go to the Foxborough Regional Charter School, and I try to help the environment because it's the only thing that's keeping us here.
What are some of the toughest issues Massachusetts faces in terms of energy and the environment?
Well, I think anytime that you're a leader and you're starting to do things differently than the way you've done in the past, there are always people that are always skeptical about making any kind of a change. And what the governor has challenged us as a Commonwealth to do, and at the same time empowered us as a Commonwealth to do, to begin to move away from the fossil fuels of oil and coal and gas, and move to an energy efficient environment, to move to a renewable energy environment. In so doing, we have to talk about the costs of moving over to that type of an energy powered future. And at the same time, we have to talk about how these resources are sited within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in terms of where we put wind turbines, where we put solar arrays, because you were coming into people's communities and to their neighborhoods. So it's sometimes a difficult discussion, but the governor has always challenged us to be very responsible about how we do energy siting. and to always have a robust public policy. So I think that it's difficult sometimes. Those conversations are hard to start, but you find out that when you have these discussions in people's homes and their businesses or in their town halls, there really becomes a lot of education that is put out there and a really robust discussion that people become very vested in. Because at the end of the day, we in Massachusetts, we understand the significance of clean energy policies on our environment. We understand that global warming and climate change is a real event that is occurring. We understand that there are things that we need to do as a Commonwealth to adapt and to mitigate the changes that we're going to see coming in our climate. There's an acceptance of that here in Massachusetts, so we can move off of that and understand that relationship between our energy use and our environment, so it becomes a very healthy discussion that people are truly vested in.
What advice would you give to Massachusetts students about protecting our environment?
Well, to get involved. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing that anybody can do is to get involved in their communities and to get involved of the issues that are important to the community. And I can't think of a more important issue, or maybe two issues that are important, which is education and the environment, because it truly is the investment into the future. And as the governor always says, you can choose to do nothing, because in fact that is a choice, or you can choose to get involved and to lead and to make a difference. And I used to be mayor back in my community of Westfield, Massachusetts for some 13 and a half years. And I've seen individuals and I've seen individual students make huge difference in the communities just by being involved and being a spokesperson, being a leader in the community or on a particular issue on education or environment, and truly changing for the better the future in the community, or in this case the state. So I think that there's nothing more important than people can do than to obviously be getting a good education, being involved in your school, get involved in your community, but be involved in the issues in whatever way you feel comfortable, whether it's participating in a club or doing what you're doing here today, being a great speaker if you're comfortable doing that. But at the end of the day, to get involved. Everybody has time, talent, and time to some degree, and I think we have an obligation to make the investment of that time, talent, or time to make tomorrow better for the next generation to come.
Why did you go into this type of work?
I think it's as mayor, I used to get asked a lot. What are the most important things you can study in school to get to be a mayor, or now get to be the secretary? And I think having a well-rounded education and really every single day you use the things that you've learned in math and science and social studies and history, certainly English. They all come into play. But there really became a really true understanding that at the end of the day, the governor, I think, says it best when he talks about generational responsibility. And the things that you can do in government has a role to play in making tomorrow better, to making Massachusetts a better place to live, work, and play, to improve the quality of life in the city or town that you live in, and to be involved. And I firmly believe that public sector work, which is what we're involved here in government, is an important part and can make a huge difference in bettering people's lives tomorrow. So that's really why I got into it. I mean, originally when I ran for mayor, it was really to improve the educational system. And as mayor, got to work in some great environmental projects, and understood that when people decide where they're going to live, and you ask them, why did you choose to live here? They always say because of the quality of life. And when you ask them to define what the quality of life is, almost invariably at the top of that list are issues of the environment. Access to recreational opportunities, access to open space, access to our beaches, to our streams, to the ability to go out into the outdoors, whether it's to bicycle or to hunt. It's really the appreciation of the environment as a whole that we live in that truly does make up the quality of life and the very fabric of the community and the state that we live in. So I don't really think that there's much higher calling than public sector work, particularly when you can make a difference on those kinds of issues.
What role can schools helping to protect our environment?
I actually think that the schools are the first line, certainly of education and involvement. I think that there is nothing more important that as a state we can do, or as a city and town that we can do, which is to support our educational institutions across the board. Whether it's the private institutions or the public institutions, there is no more important thing than education. It's the very fabric, certainly, of what we do here in Massachusetts. In terms of our whole economic development and survivability and sustainability in Massachusetts is really dependent on our education and our educational systems. But at the end of the day, it's educating our leaders for tomorrow, to be able to put our students in a position to be the leaders in our cities and towns, in our state and in our nation. So I think students have an obligation because they have an opportunity to get a good education, to become the leaders and be better tomorrow. But they do also have that responsibility to be serious about their work at school and to do the best that they can and to stay involved and then to give something back for the students that are coming after you, to leave your school or your community or your state in a better place than even you have found it at this young age. You will have a responsibility to be involved and to be the leaders of tomorrow. So I would challenge everybody in the ways that they are comfortable to do it, to get involved and become the leaders around the issues of the environment. You would be surprised, even in the elementary schools, what a difference you can make when you go home and you tell your parents and your grandparents or your neighbors you need to be recycling differently or more. That you need to turn the lights off, that you need to conserve water, little things, and they all add up. But students can drive changing people's habits because parents will learn from their kids as well as the other way around. And so you can't be afraid to be that leader and be the spokesperson, whether it's in your school or in your home or ultimately in your community or your state.
Okay, and one more question. What academic action steps are needed to become secretary?
Well, this kind of goes back to what's been my education. By background, I was actually a political science major, and I do have a law degree, which do come in handy in this job, as well as certainly science and math and English. And I think it is important that every single subject matter does play a part in your future life and plays a role in this job. I mean, even appreciations for arts and music and being able to understand how everything interacts with each other are very important. So I really think a broad-based education does become important, and you'll be surprised exactly how something that you might learn in history class comes back into play in this job. And I know we were a little late starting today because we have other debates that are happening across the street at the State House right now in terms of budgets. So history and math become very important and something that you might not think of every day of how it's going to apply. But I think it's important to know that everything that your teachers are up and teaching every single day or over the course of the year, in fact, will make a difference in your future. So do well in school and you'll do well in life.